Right, so Biome Battle 1 is taking place tomorrow, and even though I have no knowledge of actually playing in the event, I'm going to give my best tips for every game mode. So, starting off with Oppenslimer. First of all, it's a very much Splatoon-based game mode. You're shooting, and you swim instead ink. Don't do what these two are doing. This not only risks just losing straight up, but also you can just easily get third parties from like someone up here or somewhere. Second of all, if we wait a moment, you jump really high out of the ink for some reason. So this can very much confuse enemies as to where you are. Use this a lot. Extra little thing, there's also these little capture points you can sort of see. Don't stand actually directly on the capture points because there's zero cover there. Try and stand like behind it or up high where there's more cover. Now going on to Farming Frenzy. First of all, staying as a group can definitely help in big team fights. And you also want to try and split your team across 2 or 3 bits of farmland, because less than that is going to take longer. More than that is going to have multiple people trying to break the same things, and that's going to be really slow. The other big tip I can give is especially sticking together to use these buffs. I'm guessing this is some kind of area buff thing. If you can get a full team in that, that's probably going to be very good for you. Moving on to Runner's Rampage. There's not a lot of tips I can really give here apart from practice parkour. But always keep an eye out for shortcuts throughout the race. And especially, I'd recommend VOD reviewing, even if it's just 1 or 2 POVs after the event, to look for shortcuts for future events. And because there's 4 different variants of this map, I'd recommend doing that for every time a new map actually appears. So now, moving on to the 4th game, that being Cosmic Clash. First of all, in a game mode like this, I would normally say spam your elytra because it makes your hitbox really weird. But in this case, you'll see here, there are homing firework rockets and probably other homing stuff. So, only do that in close range combat. Also, probably my most important tip for this game mode: always make sure you have somewhere to land. The last thing you want is to fall into the void and die. Anyway, moving on to our 5th game, Arena. We have quite a few mob kits here. First of all, you can sort of split kits into different categories here. If I just go back a few frames. You have, for example, Iron Golem, which is going to be more of a tank, probably. And the Witch kit, which is probably going to have potions. Some of which will probably be healing pots. Those like tanks and support, and you also have pretty much every other role we can see here is DPS. An ideal split would be having one of every major role and then another DPS or support player depending on how you want to play. As for the kits we can see, we have a Breeze which has wind charges and a mace, an Iron Golem which has, I don't actually know what the Iron Golem has. We have a Zombie which is going to be the best for just standard regular damage, because that's 9 swords. The Enderman has Ender Pearls and blocks, and the Witch does not have a close range weapon, so I'm guessing potions are going to be really good for that. And we also have the Silverfish, who I'm guessing spawns Silverfish, judging by these sea little fellas. And Skeleton has a bow and arrow, if we go back a bit. Skeleton has a bow and arrow, and the villager, at least a fisherman villager, there might be other variants, has a wooden axe and a fishing rod. It's definitely worth memorising any of the kits that you can, because then you can get a better idea of what your opponents are able to do. For example, a Breeze isn't going to be able to use an Ender Pearl because that's an Enderman's item. Now going from one of the most in-depth game modes to one of the least in-depth game modes, Hiding Havoc. Always have an escape route for this, not like this guy down here. This guy does not have an escape route. And your better movement players can definitely run around to collect power-ups and points and stuff. As for Splee, always have a couple of snowballs to collect the item boxes. You can definitely get those from like halfway across the map. You don't need to be that close. And also, this pillar back here, Things like this are good because there's less ways people can attack you from. And then we have our final game, Sprint. For Sprint, you probably want to keep high ground. Bridge, if that's something you can actually do. Because then the hunters will find it more difficult to get to you. As for voting, in the first event, it's not really going to matter with the season's gimmick because no one knows what the maps look like apart from these little bits. You're only going to need to worry about the maps more as more events happen and we actually know what the maps look like. So for the first 2-3 events, you're going to be more focused on that points multiplier than which maps get played. Yeah, as for the rest of this, here's the roster for the first event. There's a lot of people you might know here, like It's Iggles Piggles, I know he's pretty popular. You've got Sandwich. You've also got a couple of the Rising 2 winners. I'm going to be watching Wade's Box. And join the Discord server and follow them on Twitter.